Class is in session, and it is time to hand out some draft grades. What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports all back at it with another video talking, of course, my NFL here to talk about the Chicago Bears and here to give you guys my grades for every single Chicago Bears draft selection in the 2023 NFL Draft. Before I do that, if you guys are new to the channel, please do make sure to hit the big red subscribe button down below and make sure you are following me on all my social media platforms, guys. As always, make sure you always hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. All right, so let's just get right into it. And we start with the Chicago Bears' first draft selection, offensive lineman Darnell Wright. And I'm sorry, this pick doesn't deserve anything besides an A. And I don't know why I said I'm sorry, but I'm basically trying to tell you that this was a clear-cut home run in a way for the Chicago Bears in terms of getting Darnell Wright, who Ryan Poles said was his number one offensive lineman on his board. Now, again, I know GMs will say that, but for the most part, man, Darnell Wright addresses the biggest need on the roster, which was the offensive line. It protects your biggest asset, which is Justin Fields, and you get arguably a guy who could be the best in the draft class. Yes, I liked Rashawn Johnson. Yes, he was probably ranked higher, but there were other draft analysts and other mock drafts and other experts saying that Darnell Wright could be the best tackle in this draft. And he will be a plug-and-play day one starter, massive dude, great in pass protection, literally will just be exactly what the Bears need. And honestly, they picked up a free pick here, getting Darnell Wright, because the Eagles were never going to take him, and they swapped picks with the Eagles and got an extra fourth-round pick. So even more kudos to Ryan Poles for that. So I'm giving this pick an A. If you want to give it an A+, sure, I guess you can do that too. But I'm giving this pick an A because I'm telling you, like, this is the guy that we were targeting all along, in the sense of, okay, if it's not going to be PJJ and you couldn't get him because he was gone at that point, so that's not Ryan Poles' fault, you go ahead and get the next best guy that you wanted, and that was Darnell Wright. And so to me, again, not too much analysis to look here, because Wright is going to be, I believe, a stud. So this is an A. Great start for the Chicago Bears and Ryan Poles. All right, let's move on to the next pick, and that was at number 53, and that was Gervon Dexter, the defensive lineman from Florida. Now, he's a D tackle, so we really focused on the interior of the defensive line. Didn't really grab any edge rushers. Well, I'll get to that a little bit later. But let's talk about Dexter. Massive dude. Physical tools off the charts. 6'6", 310. And he's a guy who's very raw. Okay, he's very raw, but the talent is undeniable. All right? I'm going to give this pick a B-, and here's why. Look, positionally, you needed to draft a D lineman. So right off the bat, you get a C+, C+ just by drafting a defensive lineman. And then when you add into the fact the physical tools and the fact that this guy could just be a massive help for you in the interior of the defensive line, that bumps the grade up. But why is this not higher? Why is it only a B-? Well, because of the fact that Dexter's a guy who's raw. Scouts have said he's slow coming off of the snap, and that's going to be obviously something to look forward to and develop. And again, I believe there were better guys to get here. This was a bit of a reach for the Chicago Bears, okay? Based off of the draft boards and the other guys that you could have gotten, I think you could have waited and still gotten Dexter with one of your later picks. So because of the reach, because of his rawness, and because of the fact that there's still things that you need to develop with this guy, and he's probably not going to be a starter right from day one, this is a B- for me. Okay, so let's move on to the next pick at 56. The Chicago Bears took cornerback Tyree Stevenson from Miami. Now, this pick, I will go ahead and give it a B+. Tyree Stevenson, 6 feet, 198 pounds, big cornerback with size and strength to match big receivers. He's an explosive athlete. He's springy. He's got great ball skills. And what I love is I feel like he's a day one starter in a way where you can have him out there with Kyler Gordon and with Jaquan Brisker, and you can expect him to meaningfully contribute in his rookie season. And he's a guy who a lot of people thought he would go earlier, so you got the value there. And that's why, for me, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a B+. If you want to say A-, sure, but that's kind of where I'm arranging this, okay? Cornerback wasn't as much of a need as D-line and O-line, so maybe you can dock a few points there. But in terms of the value, in terms of the upside, and in terms of the skill set, I'm going to say this is a solid B plus for the Chicago Bears. All right, let's move on to pick number 64, and that was Zach Pickens, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. Now, Zach Pickens, 6'4", 291, so not as big as a Javon Dexter, but he's still athletic. He's still got good size and length, and he's disruptive, man. He can play both tackle spots, so again, you really are going ahead and addressing that interior of the D-line. Now, for this pick, I'm going to give it a B+. A lot of scouts, a lot of analysts seem to like Zach Pickens, and I feel like Zach Pickens is a guy who can pop, and he had eye-popping numbers in college. He did, and he's a guy who's big, strong, and athletic, and I think he might be able to come along quicker than, let's say, a Dexter, who's more raw. So to me, I'm going to say this is a B+. Again, you're addressing a need, which is the D-line, but you didn't get an edge rusher, so I'm going to kind of dock a few points there, but a solid B+ nonetheless. And yeah, through this many picks, the Bears have had a fantastic draft. All right, let's move on to the next one. Number 115, the Chicago Bears took running back Rashawn Johnson from Texas, and I got to give this pick an A-, folks. Rashawn Johnson is an absolute stud. All right, I'll explain why it's an A-, not an A. Let's talk about Rashawn Johnson, reliable pass catcher. We needed that in a running back. We didn't have a single reliable pass-catching running back between Herbert and Foreman, and Travis Homer is more of that, but he's not going to play as much. And again, he's a third-string running back. Rashawn Johnson has a chance to literally be the starter. I believe he's got that much talent, okay? If it wasn't for Bijan Robinson, this guy would have been the bell cow in Texas, okay? So reliable pass catcher, strong blocker, which you love that, all right? That's one of the problems with Khalil Herbert and why Monty was always the starter is Herbert was not great in pass protection. And you need a guy who's good in pass protection, okay? Especially when you don't have a strong offensive line, okay? He runs hard. Good balance of power and elusiveness. He can also play special teams. He's tough. He's smart. He's dependable. And he's a guy who was docked with a round 2 to 3 grade, and we got him at 115. So you got value there. So for all of those things, you got to give this guy and this pick an A. But I'm giving it A- because of the fact that, again, it is still a running back position, which is not as valuable as the other one. So just a slight dock there, but nothing too crazy here. This is a guy who, when it's all said and done, by the second half of the season, I can see him starting, honestly, or being 1A, 1B with Khalil Herbert. Honestly, that's how talented Rashawn Johnson is, okay? Everyone loves this pick, including myself. All right, let's move on to the next pick. At number 133, wide receiver Tyler Scott from Cincinnati. I'm going to go ahead and give this pick a B. So Tyler Scott, 5'10", 177 pounds. He is a big-time vertical threat. So you can see, obviously, a little bit lighter on the weight scale. A big-time vertical threat. A Darnell Mooney clone. Could Ryan Poles be setting up to move on for Mooney by drafting Tyler Scott? We'll see. But yeah, he can take the top off of defense. Run after catch is amazing. Top end speed. Ran a 4.37. I mean, this is a guy who fits Justin Fields' skill set to a T. Right? The deep ball, that's exactly what Justin Fields likes to do, and we have a guy in Tyler Scott who can go ahead and go and get that deep ball. So again, let's see where he ends up, playing in terms of the depth chart. Certainly, I think he's going to be at best a wide receiver 4 behind Moore, Mooney, and Claypool, but he could even be a 5 behind Vilas just to start the year. But I'm going to say it's a B because I think we got value for him. I think, he was projected to go earlier, and you give yourself a little bit more insurance here. If he does pan out, maybe you can move on from Mooney. What if Vilas Jones was a bust? And now you have Tyler Scott, who, again, can make up for that pick. So, again, a lot of good things working for him, so I'm going to give this pick a B. All right, let's move on to the next pick, number 148, Noah Sewell, linebacker from Oregon. I'm going to say this pick is a B-. Now, look, folks, linebacker wasn't a need for us. All right, we had a ton of linebackers we signed in free agency between Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards and Jack Sanborn, and so this was much more of a luxury than a need. Noah Sewell, is solid. He is the brother of Lions offensive tackle Penei Sewell, 6'2", 220, versatile, great movement skills. Is a good blitzer, rushes hard to the ball. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to say it's a B- because we didn't need the linebacker spot. I wish we went edge rusher here instead. And so this is kind of where I say did you really need to go BPA, or could you have gone more for need there? But again, I think he'll be solid. I don't know if it'll be anything special. All right, let's move on to 165, cornerback Terrell Smith from Minnesota. I'm going to give this pick a C, all right? Now, look, Terrell Smith, I think he's going to be solid for sure. He's a physical cornerback with good ball skills. Let me bump this up, by the way, to a C+. 6 feet, 204 pounds, good size, speed, length, decent in press coverage and run support, and he's a physical press man corner. All right, so you love to see all of those things. And here's the reason why I'm kind of docking this to a C, because again, this is the part of the draft where I really felt like Ryan Poles needed to go ahead and add those edge rushers. He kept going BPA, then that's fine. But you did draft a corner earlier in Tyree Stevenson. You know, did you see like there was value here with Terrell Smith? I don't know if they got completely amazing value or he just went where he was supposed to. But at the end of the day, this is a depth piece. I get adding to the secondary. And again, cornerback was a need, a little bit lower on the depth chart, still a need. But I'll say C+. That's kind of where I stand with Terrell Smith. It doesn't really move me one way or the other, okay? 2 more picks here. Next one, defensive lineman Travis Bell from Kennesaw State at the 218th pick for them. This was another defensive tackle. He's tough, he's explosive, he's physical, he's relentless, he plays with a motor. He can play nose tackle, he can play 3-tech, and he's a guy who's 6 feet, 310 pounds. I'm going to say this is a B-. Again, you could have addressed edge rusher here, and I know I keep harping on that point, but it is important because now you have to use the free agency market, and now you have to go ahead and use other avenues to address this. But still, at the end of the day, I like the fact that this kid's got a motor. I like the fact that, again, maybe this late, getting drafted this late could give him a chip on his shoulder to play even better. And fun fact, first player ever drafted from Kennesaw State. So who knows, maybe Travis Bell could, make some things happen here. So again, I think it's a B- for me. And finally, the last pick for the Bears, 258th, Kendall Williamson, safety from Stanford. I'm going to say this is a C. 6 feet, 203 pounds. He was a 4-year starter who ran a 4.49. Safety wasn't much of a need for us. He's a tough, strong safety, though, who assists in run support. A good open field tackler, high effort, high motor. Again, it is what it is. I think safety wasn't a need for us, but we did take BPA at this point. And again, it's kind of like the Elijah Hicks pick last year. It is what it is. We'll see if he makes the roster or not. He's a 7th-round pick. All right, so overall, folks, taking all of those picks into account, how do I feel like the Bears did overall in this year's draft? I think Ryan Poles deserves a, drum roll please, B+. B+ is my overall grade, and the only reason it's not an A or an A- is I wish he took more edge rushers. If he just took more edge rushers, 1 or 2, this would have been an A. But for the most part, address needs. You hit it out of the park with Darnell Wright. You address the interior of the defensive line. You got yourself some cornerbacks. You got yourself a stud running back who could potentially be the starter in the future. So you addressed a lot of these needs. I just wish you gave me an edge rusher or 2. That's it. That's all I asked. And so, again, B+, very solid grade. I think Ryan Poles had a very, very, very solid draft, and I really liked it. So let me know what you guys think, man. What is your grade for the Chicago Bears draft overall? Leave a comment down below as always.